To download more lectures, learn more about our project, and to help support it, visit www.bayyinah.com/dream. That's BAYYINAH/dream. You are free to share these recordings with family and friends. Thank you and Jazakumullah khairan for helping us make our dream a reality.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر اللهم اجعلنا من الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه ومن استنى بسنته إلى يوم الدين. ثم أما بعد. Inshallah ta'ala, we're starting our second session on Surat Asar. The first one was on Sunday, and that was mostly the overview and a broader look at the contents of this profound surah that most, if not all of us, have memorized. It is made up of 3 ayat. It's one of the shortest surahs in the Quran, and something very, very commonly repeated and known. Inshallah ta'ala, today we're going to complete the overview and then move on to the word-by-word analysis and some commentary from great ulama of our history that have pondered upon this surah and written some great things in their tafsir in regards to it. The first thing we're going to talk about today is the fact that this is one of the surahs that belongs to a score of surahs that begin with oaths, a qasam. Allah Azza wa Jal takes an oath in many, many, many surahs. And in this series we have talked about this before. The benefit of Allah taking an oath, what rhetorical purpose does it have? What's the purpose of Allah swearing? And the rough translation, if I was to say, wal asr, I swear by time. It's a very coarse translation, but still, the point that's coming across is Allah Himself is taking an oath. He's swearing by something. What's the benefit of Allah Azza wa Jalla swearing? There are a few. One of them is to acknowledge the grandeur, the magnificent nature of something. Whatever Allah swears by is something profound and magnificent. This is one opinion held by Mufassirun. This is certainly the case here, or part of the case here. Why? Because in many hadith, for example, لا تسبوا الدهر فإن الله هو الدهر. Very famous hadith, and other types, this type of hadith, they're found in Sahih Bukhari and Muslim. They're very, very common. Don't curse time because Allah Himself is ad-dahr. He is time. Allah describes Himself as the timeless, right? So don't curse time. So it has to do with divine attribution, time itself. So we're not supposed to say things like, "Oh man, that was a bad day," right? Or "This was a terrible year." You know how they use these adjectives for time? It's very explicit words of the Messenger ﷺ forbidding us from doing that. So one way this has been understood is al-asr huwa ad-dahr. Allah swore by time, asr, and the almost synonymous term to that is dahr, which also occurs in the Quran. So it's something that is magnificent. That's something that is profound, something that demands reflection. In other words, Allah is calling the human being's attention to reflect on the passage of time. That's one meaning. The second is that we talked about the object of the oath and the subject of the oath, the muqsam bihi and muqsam alayhi, the Arabic terminology. What I mean by that, I'll repeat it very, very briefly. If I say to you, I swear by Allah, I didn't do that. I said this long sentence. I swear by Allah, I didn't do that. The object of my oath is the word Allah. And the subject is what? I didn't do that. Right? So there's the object and the subject. In this surah, there's also the object of the oath, wal asr. What's the object? Al-asr. What's the subject? Innal insana lafi khusr. Allah says He swears by time, or by the passage of time, and then He declares that all human beings are immersed in a state of loss. So there's the object being time, and the subject being the loss of the human being. When this happens, typically in the Quran and also in ancient Arabic rhetoric, the object is actually a proof of the subject. That's one of the ways it's understood, that the object is a proof of the subject. It's a dalil for the subject. In other words, if you say human beings are in loss, and somebody says, what's your proof? Well, in this surah, what's the number one proof that human beings are in loss? That the human beings are immersed in bankruptcy? Time itself is proof. What is the one thing human beings are losing all the time? Time. Right? Where this is an asset we can never keep. We can never hold on to this hour, this minute, this second. It is leaving us, and it will continue to leave us. It is not something you can store and use later on. It is something that, and by the way, we have lost a lot of time already. You look back in your life and you say, there are so many opportunities I could have taken advantage of and I didn't. I could have used my time better, but I didn't. I had this opportunity and that opportunity, but I didn't make the most of my time. So there's this regret about time that has already passed away. And you should use that regret to transform the way you're going to use your time in the future. But essentially, Allah has tied two things together. The idea of thinking about human loss and He associated that with the passage of time. So one is the proof of the other. Another way Al-Asr is understood is, it's not just, and we'll see this later on as is commented in Ash-Shafi, is that Asr is also, it refers to the life of nations. The zaman, the duration of the life of an entire nation. You know how entire nations rise and then they fall? Right? So when Allah uses the word Asr, it doesn't just refer to the passage of a time of a day, only, or the life of one person, but the life of an entire nation. And these rises and falls of nations themselves are proof that human beings are in loss. History itself becomes a proof that human beings are in loss. And that's captured by Allah saying, وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ. Then you go further and we find that this is the second and very important concept as far as the relationship between muqsam bihi and muqsam alayhi, is that the oath, that the object of the oath is a witness for the subject of the oath. This is different now. We said two things. The object is a proof of the subject, that's one thing. The second is the object is a witness for the subject. In other words, Allah calls a witness against the subject. In other words, how we understand that now in Surat Asar is Allah is bringing time as a witness to something. What is time supposed to witness? That no doubt human beings are immersed in loss. What does that mean? That means many, many, many human beings. And as we study the exact commentary of the Mufassirun, this will become more clear. But to make it very brief and simple right now, for now at least, is the following. You and I, and humanity at large, they run after things. We run after things that are actually distractions from our real purpose in life. That should remind you of a surah we studied, the one before this. Alhaakum at-takathur. It deluded you. The want of more, the mutually shared urge to get more and more. It distracted you from your real purpose. Most humanity is distracted running after the wrong thing. They're running after the wrong thing. Now, are we the first people to run after wealth? Or to run after a house? Or to run after getting married to a beautiful woman? Or this or that? Whatever it may be. Are we the first to run after these things? Or were there people before that ran after these things too? There were. And people ran after them thinking that they are going to have success. When they get them, they will have success. And time, Allah made time a witness that people came and they ran after these things and they failed. And then other people came and they ran after these things and they failed again. And other people came and did the same thing again. Thousands upon thousands of years, hundreds upon hundreds of generations, one after another, the same drama over and over again. And one creation of Allah has been watching it happen. It's witness to this thing over and over again. It's almost as though when it sees our struggles, it says, here we go again. Here's another one. So in other words, time is a witness to the tragedy of human life. The tragedy of the human beings' aspirations headed in the wrong direction. So time is being brought as a witness against us. Or a witness to the tragedy of the human being. And finally, the word al-asr, just from when we get into linguistic analysis, again this will become more clear. We're still in the overview right now. And in the overview, one of the meanings of asr is time that is running out. Or the last ebb of time, the last portion of time. Even Salat al-Asr is the last part of the day, right? When time's running out. And classically speaking, Asr was the time in ancient society, especially in Arab society, when the